A couple of fragrances from this house are definitely considered hype beasts. I'm really curious to finally get my nose on them. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel, today we're talking fragrances, and this is Fragrance Speed Dating with the House of Sospiro. In this format, I plow through my mountain of samples and discovery sets to learn more about the language of perfumery, to learn more about brands, to learn more about genres, and even individual fragrances. It's a really fun time, I definitely enjoy it. I really enjoy learning about new brands, new houses. You guys also seem to appreciate it, so we're gonna keep the boat moving forward. If you're into perfumery, if you're into niche fragrances, I'm sure you already heard about the House of Sospiro. Vibrato is their biggest seller by a landslide. It's basically considered a hype beast at this point. Many big YouTube channels have already been talking about Vibrato for years now. It's apparently being considered one of the best citrus fragrances on the market. And even fragrance channels that I really respect, like CG Scents, rave about this fragrance being so good, so fresh, so easy to wear, and so long lasting, which is again, unusual for a citrus fragrance. Today's discovery set was provided by my buddy Luke. He already was featured on Frag Talk a couple times. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Interestingly enough, Vibrato is not even part of this discovery set, and I had to include it. I had to include it in a speed dating. So I got myself a separate sample, and actually Luke sent over also a sample of Opera Grande. So today we have a total of 12 samples by Sospiro. The House of Sospiro is a little bit strange. It definitely spikes my curiosity, but I'll touch upon that in a sec. Other than that, the brand is fairly new to me. I really haven't sampled much of their offerings. I had smelled Vibrato and Basso a couple months ago, very briefly, but I never worn them on skin. And to be completely honest, I've even never smelled them properly off strip. So today's speed dating episode will be very enlightening. So why do I think that the House of Sospiro is a little bit strange and weird? Why am I so intrigued by it? Well, it all comes down to their marketing. If you look at the House of Sospiro, it can be easily confused with Xerjoff and vice versa. If you look at the two bottles side by side, you'll know exactly what I mean. Basically, they look kind of like a clone of one another. Sospiro and Xerjoff had to have some sort of agreement a while back, not only because the bottles look very much alike, but also because some fragrances literally cross over from the brands, namely Erba Pura. Erba Pura is basically the most important fragrance by Sospiro and Xerjoff. It's really interesting. Also, the whole V-line by Xerjoff with their fuzzy bottles straight up look like a rebranding of the House of Sospiro. And it's weird because it's not like the House of Sospiro was discontinued or was completely absorbed by Xerjoff. They both coexisted together for a certain amount of time. I think that at some point Sospiro pulled back, they pulled out of that Xerjoff agreement. I actually think that the house was acquired by some sort of a Middle Eastern brand, because if you look at their website, they appear to be based in the Middle East now, despite the Italian origin. It doesn't really matter, what happened. Sospiro still has the right or the look of those fuzzy bottles. Xerjoff does not anymore, maybe because it's their choice, but probably because it was some sort of a trademark of Sospiro. It was their look, their marketing. Again, very similar designs. Even the caps look so similar. They both have these metal gold-plated caps. The Xerjoff one is shaped as a pharaoh head. The Sospiro one apparently supposed to be shaped like a butterfly or something like that. Really interesting stuff. I'm really wondering what the true story is. If you know anything about this, leave it down in the comments below. I'm really curious. Apart from all of the rumors and gossip, Sospiro is still a house that appears to be born in Italy and that is inspired by classical music. Behind the box here we have some text which reads, Sospiro perfumes are inspired by the beauty and sophistication of classical music, celebrating the voluptuousness and splendor of perfumes, crafted by the gracious harmony of rare and precious notes. Even the names of the fragrances themselves are Italian in origin. Vibrato, Basso, Contralto, these are all Italian words. Maybe now they're more universal because they are part of the music lingo. I'm not really sure about that. But before we start, let me just very quickly remind you how this format works. The concept of speed dating is basically based on the idea of walking into a shop and sampling fragrances for the first time. You don't really have time to spray the stuff on skin and to really judge the dry down. You're tasked with evaluating these fragrances based on their very first opening off paper, giving your very first impressions, very much speed dating style. And as much as I love spraying and sampling fragrances off skin, because I really do think that the skin component, the skin chemistry adds a level of personalization to perfumes which is super unique, there's really no way to do this here. There are way too many fragrances, I don't have enough space on skin, and it would be super confusing and logistically a nightmare. After briefly sampling each fragrance off strip and quickly talking about the opening, I'll also assign a score of 1 to 10 to the opening alone, to my first impressions. These scores are not to be taken too seriously, they're not absolute, they're very much comparative in nature. They serve as a tool to really help me identify which of the fragrance I like the most, which one strikes me the most. Speaking of, I'll be be spraying that fragrance directly on skin to see how it compares to the strip. Some fragrances, some fragrance houses really require skin application to really bloom, to really show their full colors. All right, enough talking. This has been too long of an intro already. Let's get right to it. Let's start off with the samples that are in the box. Let's start off with Bel Canto, the first sample. These are, again, provided by my buddy Luke. He said that the samples and the atomizers were actually good. Let's see if he was telling the truth. All right, here we are. It's the sample of Bel Canto. I really do have to confirm the quality of these samplers. They're big and they offer a different atomizer from the crappy Xerjoff one. Actually, it's not necessarily Xerjoff. It's used by many other brands. It's the atomizer that I always complain about. Anyway, let's give this one good spray on the strip. I'm expecting these fragrances to be very bombastic. I can already smell this in the air. This comes across as super potent, very, very loud, very much Xerjoff-like, or maybe actually Sospiro-like. At this point, I'm kind of confused. But it definitely has that fun, loud, youthful energy to it. Really interesting. This is going to be a fun sample, if not a little bit overwhelming. So Bel Canto here, what does this actually smell like? Fruity, fresh, loud, very much in your face, very bold. I can't really discern anything specifically. I don't know what I'm smelling. This comes across as, again, very modern, very much Xerjoff style. Sorry for referring to Xerjoff. I usually use a brand as a comparison when talking about these very modern shampoo-like scents, but in this case it might be especially fitting because, again, Xerjoff, Sospiro, they have a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of fragrances cross between one brand and the other. And this one here smells a lot like that. It has this fresh, modern, fruity, floral, punchy aspect to it, which is definitely recognizable. But there's also something a little bit deeper in here. Something a little bit more warm. It might be an amber or a vanilla, or it might actually be some sort of a tobacco note. It might be some sort of a gourmand note in here. It just smells very rich. And it has this sweetness, which is a little bit artificial. I have to give it that. But it does come from the base. It feels like it's bubbling up from the bottom and not in an effervescent way. It just feels like it's part of the base note. It almost feels a little bit more like an adult gourmand. Maybe I'm biased because, again, these two brands are very, very connected, but it does kind of remind me a little bit of Naxos, or rather, the sweet tobacco note of Naxos, not Naxos as a whole. Naxos has that very specific lavender note. This one here is much more fruity floral in that modern sort of generic Xerjoff Sospiro way. Very recognizable. It's fun. It's really good. It has this lactonic feel to it, again, with this tobacco ambery thing going on. I'm not really sure what it is. It's good, it's fun, it's loud at that, but ultimately it's a little bit too simplistic to me. It's a little bit too boring in my opinion. I would have to give this probably like a 6.5 out of 10. Let's give it a 6.5. Next sample is Contralto. I know nothing about this scent. I have no idea about the notes in this, and this is also true, by the way, for Bel Canto before and for all of the other fragrances in the Discovery set. There's nothing for me to read, nothing for me to consult. I don't want to go for granted to read notes or descriptions, not because I feel that it's cheating, but because I solely want to rely on the Discovery set and what's in it to really get to know these perfumes and to really understand the brand. And by the way, this whole musical theme that Sospiro is kind of leveraging, I feel that it's a little bit of a gimmick. It's a little bit early to tell. I'll definitely touch upon that aspect later down the road when I sampled everything. But as of now, it just feels like a marketing ploy. Anyway, let's go on to Contralto. Let's spray this on strip. Let's see what this is all about. Let's give it the one good spray. Again, these fragrances are potent. Definitely much more my speed, but I immediately recognize the construction. It smells like a Xerjoff, it smells like a Sospiro, it has that shampoo sort of vibe. It's sweet, it's ambery, it's musky, it smells clean, but also very, very powerful. This one here specifically leans a little bit more citrusy at the top. It has a little bit more fizziness. It's nice, I do like it. It's mass appealing and likable. These scents are definitely designed to appease a specific target audience. I totally get it. The target audience I'm referring to is the population of newcomers to niche. They're a very enthusiastic crowd which are searching for potent, powerful, very fun, modern fragrances that leave a huge sillage and that possibly get you comments. Again, I get it. I was one of those people. I used to buy PDM, I used to buy Xerjoff, and I used to buy fragrances like this. Now, I feel that I graduated a little bit towards other stuff, and not in an elitist way. These fragrances are very important to the community, they're important to the market, because they serve as that stepping stone to really allow people to dive a little bit deeper into niche, into more complex and artistic sense. There's nothing wrong with stuff like this, but again, it's a little bit simplistic, it's a little bit basic. And this one here has a lot of the DNA of Bel Canto, but again, it goes a little bit more citrusy, it goes a little bit more effervescent. I do like this a lot. I would probably wear something like this in the summer. It's beautiful, it's powerful, it's fun, it's citrusy, it's really, really great. I would give this probably a 7 out of 10. I like this a lot. Next fragrance on the list here is Erba Leather. Now, I'm assuming that this is a flanker to Erba Pura. I'm really curious to see how much actual leather is in here. I know for a fact that Xerjoff, if they want, they can create very edgy fragrances, so I'm expecting Sospiro to kind of follow suit. Who knows? I'm expecting something potent, maybe more on the fruity side. Let's see what this is about. Let's give it that one spray. Yes, it definitely has that Erba Pura DNA, and you know what? I'm a little bit of a sucker for Erba Pura. It's so fun, so modern, just so over the top. This one here takes that fruitiness, that very sweet fruitiness, and it combines it with a little bit of a leather note, which is incredibly apparent. And it's strange because it kind of reminds me of the leather note in Ombre Nomade by Louis Vuitton. It almost feels like a crossover between Erba Pura and Ombre Nomade. Really interesting. The leather in here comes across as gritty, it comes across as very oily, a little bit musky, but not too rough, not too animalic, not too oudy, but it's definitely present. You can definitely tell that there's leather in here. I thought that it would be a lot less prominent, but wow. It almost smells like a sweeter, more muskier version of something like Maison Crivelli's Oud Maracuya. It's interesting because this does indeed smell a little bit like Oud Maracuya, maybe a little bit like Ombre Nomade, especially in the leather department, but this one here carries a massive dose of musk. It has this very distinct shampoo vibe, typical of the Xerjoff V line, very typical of the Erba line by Sospiro. Really unique take. It's so fun, so overwhelming. This is, again, not necessarily my fragrance. It's not necessarily something that I would wear every day, but it's really cool. I like it. I really like the vibe. I really like the contrast. And again, it's not unheard of. It's not super original, but it does smell different from everything else from the Xerjoff line or from the V line that I've smelled today. I like this. It's super fun. I have to give this like a 7.5 out of 10. Really unique smelling. Wow. The next sample is Pasticcio, and I'm just now realizing that these boxes have a specific color association, and this one here comes across as very metallic green. So I'm wondering what this is about. And by the way, Pasticcio, I'm not sure about the musical connotation, I'm not really sure about the musical significance, but in Italian, Pasticcio means mess. So let's see what this is about. Let's give it the usual one spray. All right, here we go. This is another one that smells very familiar. It smells a lot like the stuff I smell till now. It has that very specific shampooy muskiness. It's beautiful, it's sweet, it's very mass appealing, very likable. The vibe is overall sort of the same. I can't really pick up on what's in here. It does smell a little bit more green. Maybe again, I'm influenced by the green box, but it does smell a little bit more sharp. It's kind of reminding me a little bit more of Contralto, which had the citrusy zing up top. This one here has a little bit more of an aromatic greenness. But again, that shampooy muskiness is kind of taking over any fine nuance that this scent could have. It's good and I would wear it, but I don't know, it's just kind of like nondescript. Similarly to Bel Canto, this sort of a vanilla gourmand note, which is kind of just bubbling up from the base, very much part of the base, and it's eating up on the fine nuances in the top notes. Again, this might be green, but I'm pretty much guessing at this point. It's also surprisingly one of the lighter ones that I smelled till now. The other ones were very sharp, very much in your face. This feels a little bit more delicate, a little bit more subtle. Maybe they have a little bit more variety. Maybe they're not all bombastic like before. Maybe this one here is meant to be a little bit more understated. I don't know. I'm not too impressed. This is probably like a 6 out of 10. Okay, I'm pretty excited about the next two. I even considered a blind purchase a while back. This one here is Deep Ocean Amber, and apparently it's Sospiro's take on the marine genre. Let's give it a go. Let's give it our usual one spray. These samples are really stuck in here. All right, here we go, the one spray. Okay, this one here smells extremely different. I'm very happy about this. There's nothing worse of going through a discovery set with all of the fragrances kind of smelling the same. This one here is a strong departure from that shampooy, musky formula. It kind of reminds me of Electimus Black Caviar. It's not as extreme, not as fishy. It's very likable. This is a very likable take on marine. The top notes are pretty much based on citruses and maybe some greenery, but in the base you can definitely pick up on some marineness, but the oceanic note in here is much different from other weird, funky, fishy marine notes out there. It has this component of likability, of mass appealingness. Maybe it's the amber, hence the name of the fragrance, Deep Ocean Amber. But it does smell sweet, but in a very interesting way. It's not over the top, it's not overly done. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of zoologist squid, but a little bit more simplistic, a little bit less imaginative. Or rather, not necessarily simplistic, it's a little bit more mass appealing than that. I like this a lot. It's really good. I think it's my favorite so far. Again, the greenness up top, it's reminiscent of something like seaweed or sea kelp, but not in that photorealistic way. It's much more of a romanticized version of seaweed. It has a lot more fruitiness to it. It has a lot more maybe spiciness to it, but it comes across as sweet. The whole thing has a sweet undertone, but it's weird because this whole fragrance is divided into sweet top notes with that greenness and sweet bottom notes with that salty ambery note. Really interesting, wow. I would definitely pull this off. I would definitely wear this. This is really good. I think that this is probably like an 8 out of 10. This is a very strong first impression. If I were to walk in a shop and smell this, I would be thoroughly impressed. Fragrance number 6, this one here I'm also very excited about. This one here is Maraschino. And by the way, it's pronounced Maraschino, not Maraschino. This one here is clearly a cherry fragrance. A Maraschino is one of those cherries that you put in cocktails. Really interesting. I love my cherry notes, which are a little bit more synthetic, a little bit more over the top. And I'm expecting a punchy fragrance from Sospiro. Hopefully this one here lives up to the hype. I think that this one here is actually one of the newer releases from the house. Very curious. As I said before, I almost blind bought this a while back, then I kind of hesitated because these are not easy to find at discounters around my area. Or rather, they're not that cheap at discounters. Anyway, let's give it the one spray. Interestingly enough, this one here is a little bit of a different atomizer. The vial is glass instead of plastic. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for that sour artificial Kool-Aid cherry, but this one here is much more gourmand in nature. I mean, it's good. It's very much cherry, but it has this very thick almond component. It's very much more on the bready side. It's much more on the sweet side rather than the sour side. It's still cherry, but it leans a lot more feminine right off the bat. I can easily tell. Yup, this reminds me of Caspian Cherry by Electimus. It has that same disappointing soft cherry note. And I'm not saying disappointing because it's bad. I'm disappointed because it's not the type of cherry that I like. This is it's a good cherry. It's a very good gourmand. I do feel that houses like Xerjoff and Sospiro and other bombastic houses are the best houses, are the best brands to bring out gourmands because they just lean into it so much. They're so fun, they're so powerful, so mass appealing, and this one here is definitely that. But yeah, as I was saying, there's a very strong gourmand component to this. It's very much vanilla-like. It smells like, it has this bready, doughy feature to it. It has this almondy paste. I can't remember what the sweets made of almond paste are called. I can't remember to save my life, but this smells kind of like that. Imagine one of those sweets, but covered in a little bit of a cherry jam. Again, very sweet, very soft, very pillowy. It doesn't smell like shampoo whatsoever, but there's a lot of muskiness aiding to this softness to it. It just comes across as a very soft, fluffy blanket. Not shampoo-like, much more gourmand-like. I have to say that this smells kind of like a cherry candle. And again, I was really hoping for a little bit more tartness, a little bit more sourness, a little bit more brightness. This is not bright at all. There's almost a complete absence of zingy notes, of tartness up top. There's nothing in here. It's very much bass heavy. It just has this rumbling, cloudy, fluffy presence to it. I like it, but it's definitely not my thing. I was really hoping to like this a lot more. It's good. It's fun. Objectively, third person mode, I would probably have to give this like a 7.5 out of 10. But due to me not necessarily vibing with the cherry, due to me finding it a little bit more feminine, I would have to go with like a 6.5 out of 10. All right, fragrance number 7 is called Accento Viola. Now, this is very interesting because Xerjoff has 2 fragrances. One is called Accento, which I sampled and I even reviewed on my channel. I'm very, very familiar with that scent. I wore it almost as a signature scent for a long time. I really like that scent, actually. It had the perfect combination of like fluffiness, shampoo factor, with a little bit of a fruity tartness up top due to the pineapple. They also have another fragrance called Purple Accento, and Viola, by the way, means purple. So I'm really curious, which one is this? Is this a copy of the original Accento? Let's find out. These samples are very well packaged here. Oh, this one also has a glass vial and a different sprayer in a similar way to Maraschino. Interesting, very, very interesting. So I cannot comment on Purple Accento because I've never smelled that, but this one here does not smell necessarily like the original Accento. Come to think about it, honestly, I've never smelled the original Accento off paper, so that might be a case. But this one here comes across as a lot brighter, a lot more fruity up top. It has this distinct, almost mouth-watering sourness to it, which is not necessarily pineapple. It's more of a citrusy rindiness to it. Really interesting. Also, surprisingly enough, again, Accento was dominated by this shampoo muskiness at the base, which is very, very apparent. But here, I can barely smell it. And this is a strong departure from the other fragrances that I've smelled that feature this very identifiable, very specific DNA in a very prominent fashion. This one here comes across as much brighter, much lighter. And again, I'm mesmerized by this very sour, tart, citrus top. It's nice. I like it a lot. Again, it's almost mouth-watering. This is easily the brightest of the bunch. It's easily the most fresh smelling of the bunch, the most summery of the bunch. But in the back, you can definitely pick up on some fresh toweliness in there. It smells a little bit fluffy. It smells a little bit like a cotton ball. But not neutral, like a sweet cotton ball, like something in a hotel. Again, the hotel vibe, the hotel imagery is a little bit overused in fragrance reviews. I use it a lot too, but it truly does depict fresh linen, like clean linen, which is smelling good and luxurious. This smells kind of like that with a nice fresh top. I like this. I think that this is my second favorite. Right after the Amber Ocean one. That one there was a standout, but again, I like weird stuff. If I would have to stay in the more traditional sort of DNA, that musky shampooiness, this one here is definitely a standout. Well, actually, the other fragrance that I really liked was Erba Leather. That one was really fun, really, really over the top. I really liked that one. This one here, though, is good. I like it. I think it's a solid 7 out of 10, like really, really solid. All right, fragrance number, what is this? 8. This one here is Dolce Melodia, which translated means sweet melody. The color of the box is this gold yellow thing, so I'm expecting an over-the-top gourmand with vanilla. Again, I have no basis upon this expectation. It's just giving me this vibe. Again, Dolce Melodia, it's a little bit of a cheeky name. They wouldn't use sweet if it weren't a sweet fragrance, I guess. Let's give it a go. Once again, we're back to the old samples, the plastic vials. Perfectly fine. They spray amazingly, actually. Let's give it the one spray. All right, let's see what this is about. I like this a lot. It comes across as well designed and well balanced, and I'm surprised about this because the base is pretty much the same as the other fragrances, but for whatever reason, the combination with the top notes just works so well. And the top of this is pretty much lemon-like, but not in a cleaning product way. It's very soft, very sweet. It almost comes across as like a lemon vanilla cake. Really pretty. Wow, I'm surprised. And I'm surprised of how well the shampoo, clean towel, clean linen base works with this. It comes across as very wearable, very mass appealing, very likable. Well, all of these are, pretty much. Even the more edgy ones like Erba Leather. That one there, as fun as it was still at heart a mass appealing scent. This is really cool though. I like it a lot. It leans a little bit more feminine to my nose for sure. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Erba Gold by Zerjov in the way that it's a more subtle, understated version of Erba Pura, a little bit more smoothed out. This one here though has a distinct lemony, citrusy tartness, and Erba Gold had that more melon mango feel. It's really good, super well balanced as I was saying before. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of Ani by Nishané, but maybe less gourmand. That one there is also kind of like a vanilla lemony thing, but this one here is a little bit more lemony and a little bit more fresh towel-like, a little bit more cotton cloud-like. I really like this. Wow. It's incredible how some fragrances, which are clearly part of the same scent family, that kind of smell alike, like this one here, like Bel Canto and Contralto that I sampled before, present in a completely different manner by just shifting, by just fine-tuning some ingredients. This one here comes across as intentional, very characterful, has a lot of personality. It's not super bold, it's very soft, but it knows what it is. This one here is well made. The other two feel messy, they feel random. This one here does not at all. It's really good. I think that this one here tops Accento Viola as far as like shampoo vibe, because it's also still a little bit zingy, but it has a beautiful balance between the base and the top notes. I really like this a lot. This is an easy 7.5 out of 10. Fragrance number 9 is Prima Donna, and by the name itself, I'm expecting a very feminine take. Let's see what this is all about. And by the way, the color of this is also another gold yellow color. So let's see. Maybe this one here is the gourmand that I was expecting before. Okay, let's give Prima Donna a solid spray. Come to think about it, this one here is the first fragrance that really catches my eye as far as scent color. This is the darkest one of the bunch, easily. Yup, this is more of the same. More of that fluffy towel shampoo vibe, very mass appealing, very likable. It smells a little bit random, it smells a little bit messy, kind of like Bel Canto and Contralto, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. It's a little bit more floral, definitely, but again, it's very hard to discern. The other ones had this combination of fruity floral. Maybe this one here is a little bit more floral. Do I really know? Do I really recognize it? Not really. Do I really recognize the type of florals which are in here? No. The shampoo aspect, this musky, ambery, vanillic, very mass appealing base is just taking over the top notes. It's just flooding into the top notes. And again, I can't stress enough how surprised I am that the scent before, Dolce Melodia, is so much better constructed. It's so much more balanced. This feels amateur. It feels random. It feels casually put together. Again, if you were to smell this in isolation in a shop, you'd probably think that it's pretty good. It does definitely lean a little bit more feminine with the florals. But again, it's very, very similar to something like Bel Canto and to Contralto and to the other ones that I smelled. The only ones that really stuck out from this shampoo vibe were Dolce Melodia from before and probably Accento Viola. That one there was very light, very fluffy. But this is... it's heavy. It's heavy, it's sweet. It's a little bit too, I don't know, bland. Really not my style. Again, I totally get it. It's powerful, it smells powerful. I bet that you spray this on and it will last you the whole day, probably even get you compliments because it's likable, it's mass appealing. It's just really fun and modern, but it's so much not my thing. I'll keep it short. This is a 6 out of 10. 3 fragrances to go. I'm pretty excited about these because they include Vibrato and Basso, 2 hype beasts. This one here is Basso. I'm expecting to like this because apparently online, based on what is read online, this one here is based on Terre d'Hermès. It's also apparently a clone of Roja Isola Blue or Oligarch. And I've smelled that one there. I do like that DNA. I do like the overall scent profile. So I'm expecting to really like this one here. Please, Basso, do not disappoint me. Let's see if this is my style. These samples are really stuck in those boxes really tight, but I think I narrowed down the technique to get them out. You just have to shake them really hard. Let's give it the one spray. Yes, a very strong departure from everything else. None of that shampoo, mass appealing, likable vibe. This one here comes across as different. It smells much more masculine, much more specifically masculine. Citrusy, green, very tart, very manly, a little bit more mature smelling. I like this. I like this off the bat. Still smells super powerful, very bombastic. I guess that after all, it's still a Sospiro at heart. But again, it comes across as completely different from the other fragrances. The notes in here are much more mature, much more serious in a way. The citruses in here are beautiful. They're bright, they're saturated, they're very vivid. They're a little bit sour and bitter with no added sweetness. They're not super photorealistic because it smells like the citruses are a little bit filtered in a way, filtered by something. It feels like a signal that has been translated into another language. You still get the point across, but it doesn't smell exactly like that. You're missing the fine nuances. There's also a distinct green note in the top. I'm not really sure what it is. It doesn't smell oily whatsoever. The scent is very vibrant. It has a lot of airiness. It's great. Overall, great, really. The base of this comes across as a little bit more bitter and earthy. It has a little bit of that dirty orange sort of vibe of Terre but it's not as vetiver forward. There's still a little bit of a mass appealing component in here. It has this sweetness, which is kind of reminiscent of the other scents. You can definitely say that this is part of the Sospiro family, especially when smelling this back to back with the other fragrances, but it's way, way less sweet. I do feel that if you find Terre a little bit too challenging, too difficult, a little bit too bitter, and a little bit too old manish, this one here would be a really, really great option to that. It doesn't smell as high quality or as photorealistic as I was hoping it to be. I was expecting Roja levels of detail, Roja levels of complexity. Again, this one here has this filtered aspect to it. It's nice, but it feels like a translation. I can't explain exactly what I'm talking about. It feels like instead of watching real life, you're watching real life recorded with a good camera, with a high resolution camera, but you're still watching a recording rather than the real thing. This one here smells kind of like that. That being said though, the scent profile is very beautiful. I really like it. I could easily signature scent this. It's very mass appealing, very easy to wear. I can totally get the hype around this fragrance. It's not as exciting as other weird stuff like Erba Leather. That one there was a standout. I really like that one actually. This one here comes across as a little bit more simple, a little bit more predictable, but it's undeniably good. I don't really care if it's a clone or not. It's really, really good. I would have to give this like a 7.5 out of 10. Second to last fragrance is the hype beast itself. This one here is Vibrato. It's a rogue sample that I had to purchase on the side. This is a 5 ml. I had to pretty much add this to the discovery set. I couldn't have done the speed dating episode without this. You guys would have probably crucified me in the comments. So here we go, Vibrato. I'm very, very curious. Apparently this one here is the master of all citruses. It's very mass appealing, super long lasting. Apparently it's also compared to stuff like Bulgari Tiger and maybe a Louis Vuitton fragrance, maybe L'Immensité. Anyway, I have not smelled the L'Immensité or Tiger, so this will be a new thing for me. I mean, I've smelled this in the past very, very briefly, as I said in my introduction, but I barely remember what this smells like. Okay. Very, very different from the other stuff also, and I'm starting to pick up on why some fragrances really stand out. It's very difficult to define the differences between Bel Canto, Contralto, and the other thing that I tried, I think it was Bella Donna, but when you smell stuff like Basso, when you smell stuff like Vibrato, the fragrances really jump out at you. They're very, very different. So I understand which ones are the most popular just because they're so recognizable. That is actually one of the main takeaways that a brand should look out for. Stop being redundant. Stop doing fragrances which smell like each other. This one here smells different from all of the other ones in the Discovery set. It's very bright, very zingy, very lemony. It comes across as more realistic than Basso in the citrusy department, but it's also less bitter and earthy than Basso. But no surprise there because that one there is inspired by Terre d'Hermès. Ah, my God. Unfortunately, I'm kind of reminding myself why I didn't like this when I sampled this a couple months ago. This has a very strong ambroxan component, which I'm almost anosmic to. And again, I got the citrusy opening. It was very beautiful, very bright, very refreshing, but now I can barely smell a thing. I mean, as usual, I can't smell that there's something. I smell sort of empty volume synthetic compound, but it doesn't have a face. It doesn't have a personality. It smells kind of like air conditioning air. Maybe I should just wear this and just embrace it. Maybe I'll get a little bit less anosmic to it. But off the strip, not that impressed. Yeah, I get the appeal. I get that it kind of smells like Afternoon Swim, maybe, by Louis Vuitton. It kind of reminds me of the same sort of DNA. Afternoon Swim, though, it was much more realistic. The citruses in there were incredibly photorealistic. The longevity was overall absolute trash, but I was really impressed by the opening. This one here kind of has the same development. Citrusy, bright, sour tart, and then it just goes into this ambroxany core, which I can barely pick up, I can barely smell. Such a pity. Again, I do kind of pick up on something. I'm so jealous of people who can smell ambroxan or properly evaluate it at least. Not necessarily like it, but at least evaluate it. Maybe ambroxan does have this smell. Maybe it smells like nothing, but if that's the case, all of the fragrances that heavily rely on ambroxan are completely overrated. Yeah, the citrusy component in here is very, very faint. I wonder if this would develop a little bit more on skin. I can't really judge it. Again, I can barely smell the thing, so I will refrain to give this a bad score just because of that. It's really unfair. I do feel that the citrusy top is nice. The scent overall, if it's made of citruses and ambroxan, it's not too complex, not too surprising, not too innovative. I get it that it's a long-lasting scent, and oftentimes that's all you want. You want a long-lasting, fresh citrusy scent. But it doesn't smell like Torino 21. I think that one there also was a comparison. Torino 21 is much more green. There's a lot more mint in there. This one here is pretty much pure lemon or citrus. And look, the very faint citruses that I'm picking up are nice. They're nice and bright, but it's so fleeting, so faint. I have to concentrate so hard to smell this, and it's not necessarily supposed to be like that. So I don't know, I can't really rate this. If I were to grade this based on my opinion alone, given that I'm anosmic to it, I'd probably go for something like a 6, but I know there's a lot more to it. I don't know, no grade for this one here. Okay, that was disappointing because I have a 5 ml of this. I'll probably end up giving this away. I'll try to give it a wear probably tomorrow. This is fairly inoffensive, so I'm not scared of overwhelming anyone. But if I can't smell it, I'll just give this sample away to some friend or something like that. Anyway, on to the last fragrance. This one here is Opera Grande. This is a sample that was provided by Luke together with the Discovery set. I guess he just wanted to give me one more fragrance. So I have no idea what this is about. I'm assuming that this is a bottle that he has because he does decants and this is his style. So, Luke, if you like this, I'll trust your opinion, but let's see what this is all about. Very different from the rest, once again. Wow, I'm really impressed. For a moment, I picked up on a note that I was very excited about. I almost smelled this very artificial grape, and I love that artificial grape note almost as much as I love artificial cherry note. This is very much grape Kool-Aid. It has this artificial smell that is very, very difficult to find in Europe, in products in Europe at least, and it's very, very common in the US. I strongly associate it to my childhood, going to the US for the summer, eating PBs and J's, eating Fruit Loops, drinking Kool-Aid, and soft drinks in general. Even the grape juice kind of had this grape aftertaste. It's weird because it has this tartness to it, which is, again, sort of fake. Real grapes don't smell like this whatsoever, but I like this smell so much. As much as the grape note was a very distinct yet fleeting image in the opening, I do think that this fragrance is actually more floral than fruity, paradoxically. And there's something in the florals here which reminds me of the color violet or purple or lavender. But it also has this, I don't know, it has this artificial tartness to it. I really like this, actually. In the base, you get a lot of the same, a lot of that musky shampoo vibe, but it's a lot less sweet, less overwhelming, and less overpowering the rest of the notes. Prima Donna was probably the worst fragrance from the Discovery set. That base there was completely flooding into the top notes, just obliterating everything, obliterating any detail or nuances. This one here is different. I like this. You can definitely pick up on stuff in here. Still smells mass appealing, still smells likable, still smells like a Sospiro, but it's a delicate scent. It's a much more delicate scent than I was expecting it to be. Again, maybe I'm biased by that grape note, but I do enjoy this. I would probably give this about a 7, 7.5 out of 10. Not my favorite, but it's good. All right, I made it through the whole discovery set plus 2. Key takeaways are that I'm pretty fatigued. Houses like this, which are a little bit more synthetic and very, very powerful, are extremely challenging. They obliterate my nose. I'm craving clean air. I'm craving unscented air. And this is a stark difference from last time, which I sampled almost 20 fragrances, almost double the amount from Bortnikov, and I was fresh as a rose. I was really invigorated. This stuff here is extremely potent, very, very long lasting. I totally get the hype, I totally get the appeal. These are fun, modern, bombastic scents which are a joy to smell and are definitely there to leave an imprint in your memory. Takeaway number 2 is that the House of Sospiro in general is not too surprising to me. It's definitely not for me. I get a lot of resemblance with Zerjov, except for the fact that Zerjov has a lot more variety. A lot of these smell very, very similar one to another, and that is kind of underwhelming. The most underwhelming fragrances by far in the discovery set were Bel Canto, Contralto, and Prima Donna. Those were way too sweet, way too overdone. The base was so heavy, just obliterating everything in the top notes. They were just lacking nuances. They felt a little bit random and super messy. Some other fragrances really impressed me actually. My favorite one probably being the Amber Ocean one, but I think I don't want to spray that one on skin just because it's like a little bit too predictable on my part. I think I'm actually gonna spray Erba Leather. That is probably my second favorite one just because I respect the fragrance because it brings that Sospiro DNA, that Erba Pura DNA, and presents it with a little bit of a twist. It might smell a little bit like Oud Maracuya or Ombre Nomade, but it has so much of that shampoo muskiness, that overwhelming fruitiness typical of Sospiro. Really, really fun. It's a little bit too overwhelming for me, but that one there is definitely a nose catcher. It's definitely a standout from the set, and it's the one that I'm gonna be spraying on skin. To be completely honest, before when I sprayed it on strip, a little bit might have gotten on my finger and I could easily smell the leather component every time I brought my finger to my face. This is powerful, powerful stuff, so I'll be giving it only 2 sprays. While we wait for this to develop, let me just conclude here. Again, Sospiro is a little bit of a different house. It's a little bit weird. I'm not really sure about the background of the house. I'm not really sure about their intentions. Going back to that music theme, I do feel that you're kind of reaching. It's a little bit of a gimmick. I get it that they want a cool theme. I get it that it feels luxurious. It feels really inspired, but I really can't pick up on any musicalness of these fragrances. It's really bland and it just feels a little bit try hard. Please don't take this as an offense. Please don't take this to heart. I'm really not trying to talk down to Sospiro fans, but the musical theme in here is a little bit of a gimmick. There's actually no musicality in these fragrances whatsoever. Other than that, I'm happy that this brand exists. I'm happy that they're doing fairly well and that people gravitate towards it. Brands like this serve an important purpose. They have an important mission. They're expanding the public. They're bringing people into niche. Zerjov is a great brand because again, they represent luxury. They bring down luxury to a more approachable level. They make it fun, they make it modern, and they make it appealing. Sospiro is also part of that band. I like it and I respect the brand a lot just for that. But it's time to smell Erba Leather on my skin. Different, very, very different. As usual, my skin darkens everything up, but it's interesting because it's really eating into that leather aspect of the fragrance. There's a lot more muskiness, there's a lot more warm amberiness coming from the base, and that slightly gritty leather texture, which was in common with Oud Maracuya and Ombre Nomade, is almost completely gone. Now, it almost smells like a fruity, musky fragrance with a little bit of an edge. The edge in there, that leather component, almost comes across as a little bit rubbery or plasticky. It's still a fun fragrance, it's still a fun, edgy take on the usual Erba Pura DNA, but it's way less interesting, way less appealing to me. And that is the importance of smelling stuff off skin, or at least if you plan to wear it on skin. This one here on paper and skin smells completely different. I do feel that on paper it smells better. It's more lively, more bright. It has that grittiness of the leather, which is much more apparent. On my skin, everything just sinks down into the base. It becomes this rumbly, a little bit overwhelmingly sweet fragrance with no top notes whatsoever. And even that musky shampoo component is blending in with my skin chemistry and losing a lot of that freshness, a lot of that fresh towel vibe. Again, Not for me. I much more prefer it off strip. Very interesting. I always love these comparisons. In this case specifically, I was thinking that Sospiro would be a lot more predictable and stable, but I guess this was not the case. Really cool stuff though. Before closing off, a couple notes on the Discovery set itself. I can't really comment on the pricing or value. I have no idea how much this runs. This set was provided by Luke. Thank you, Luke, by the way, for the opportunity. It was super great. I can't comment on the fun factor and variety though. In this regard, this set is a little bit mid. If I would have to judge the house of Sospiro based only on the Discovery set experience, I would tend to say that the house offers a lot of redundancy. The fragrances are fun if smelled individually, but one after the other like this, they all kind of blend together. They just become very messy and very random. There are some standouts like the Amber Ocean one. The Basso was really great. There are some other ones which were kind of cool, but overall they just kind of like merge into themselves. I get it. The house has a strong DNA, which is portrayed with the base of the fragrances. A lot of them have this musky shampoo sort of vibe, but they offer very little variety. Maybe the best way to sample a house like this, a sample set like this, is to take a couple fragrances individually and sample those without going one after the other throughout the whole box. That would be a little bit overwhelming. I am fatigued and I'm used to doing this stuff, so hey, your mileage may vary. Overall though, fun times. I love doing speed dating. Another house down. I'm glad that I got my nose on Sospiro. I have a better picture of what Sospiro is, what they offer in their repertoire, so no regrets there. It's always a good investment of time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations on Sospiro fragrances that are a must smell, leave them in the comments down below. I'm always eager to follow your opinions. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for your time. It's never taken for granted. Many more speed dating episodes to come. Many more fun houses to sample, especially one I'm very eager to share. See you in the next one and cheers.